We compare infantry weapons on today's Star Wars lore video. Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to today's video. Before I begin, I'd just like to announce that I've started a brand new campaign for the Awakening of the Rebellion mod on my second channel. Awakening of the Rebellion is a really fun but also really hard mod for Star Wars Empire at War. I'll put a link down in the description. The video should be out by the time I publish this. Today, we're comparing blasters from the Star Wars universe with real-world guns. By the end of today's episode, I'll give my opinion on which one is better. Now, what's the difference between guns and blasters? Obviously, a gun fires a projectile, while a blaster fires a burst of energy. Now, projectile-based weapons do exist in the Star Wars universe, in the form of slug throwers and mass drivers, but handheld projectile weapons are generally seen as inferior to blasters and not very common. They do less damage and struggle against even common armor and shields. However, those weapons are arguably far worse than even common rifles and pistols in the real world. In this comparison, one of the most important criteria that we have to consider is power. How quickly, thoroughly, and reliably can you kill an enemy? The two universes and weapons at play here use different damage delivery systems. Blasters make use of energy contained in a magnetic field, which disperses upon hitting a target. This means that unlike a projectile weapon, the damage comes not from piercing a target, but rather from the extreme amount of heat and energy exerted from the bolt itself. Rather than having internal organs pierced or punctured, blasters burn the point of contact and cause extreme damage to the internal organs, resulting in the literal melting of the insides of someone hit by one of these weapons. A shot to the shoulder, like the one suffered by Leia in Return of the Jedi, or shots to the extremities would be survivable, but a direct shot to the midsection, or certainly the head, will almost certainly be fatal, even if the blaster is only a pistol. Projectile weapons also obviously cause extreme damage depending on their size and type. Not only do projectiles cause direct damage to the body, but they also tear right through, causing bleeding. And it's not uncommon for a person to die sometime after actually being shot due to the loss of blood or shock. That being said, I don't think a gun can match the damage output of a similarly sized blaster. Blaster wounds would also be extraordinarily difficult to heal, as the injuries are almost totally internal, without exit wounds, and they result in the complete destruction of organs and other bodily material. Most blasters also have a variable power setting and a stun mode, adding a great deal of versatility. Of course, in the Star Wars universe, you sometimes see stormtroopers or others wearing armor surviving direct shots. That's because with blasters being the dominant weapon type in the galaxy, armor is designed to absorb and disperse energy, rather than protect against penetration like real-world armor. Now, there are situations where ballistic penetration is desirable. For example, when fighting heavy armor with something valuable or vulnerable in the inside. And Jedi killers often use slug throwers, so it's not like there's no use for modern guns in the Star Wars universe. But generally, when fighting an unarmored opponent, blasters can project more damage, in my opinion. However, damage output is only one important factor when examining weapons. The next that I'd like to consider is range and accuracy, and I think this category broadly goes to real-life weapons. To keep this one short, Star Wars guns almost uniformly work at much shorter ranges. Long-range sniper rifles, for example, like the X-45, is effective up to only 500 meters, and this is supposed to be an ultra-accurate sporting rifle, often used by assassins. In real life, something like an M16 is effective at 500 meters and can kill at longer distances. Snipers in the real world have also registered kills at 2 and even 3 kilometers. Generally, this pattern can be found in every weapon type. Affecting range greatly is the fact that Star Wars blaster bolts travel relatively slow. Some argue that, because they are lasers, blasters actually travel at the speed of light. This is obviously wrong. They're clearly not traveling very fast in the movies, and, as I've explained, they're not actually lasers. rather plasma, contained by a magnetic field. When sniping or firing stealthily, bullets also have the benefit of a less obvious exit point. While blasters certainly are loud, they are also quite bright, and the visual aspect especially makes it easy to identify someone shooting. Now, of course there are ways to hide both the audio and visual aspect of a blaster, but these methods are rare, expensive, and generally limit the usefulness of the weapon. On the other side, Star Wars does have more advanced HUD and sensor technology, however, that's more often an element of armor, rather than the weapon itself. All that being said, and without a real baseline for accuracy, I would say that the real world comes ahead in this category. The last thing I'd like to look at is ammunition and versatility. Obviously, most real world guns use bullets or some form of projectile, while Star Wars blasters use battery style power packs and gas packs. The great thing about blasters is that most guns use a uniform style power pack, making ammunition very easy to manage. What's more, a single weapon can usually fire several hundred times without having to be recharged. Star Wars weapons are also often fairly versatile, with many guns having sniper settings or fully auto settings. However, the same can be said of guns in the real world. And although many weapons do have different bullet types, some guns can also use different types of bullets, whether that's ammunition meant to pierce armor, hit targets at range, etc., etc. All in all, I find it difficult to rank this category, so I'll call it a tie. So my general conclusion is that up close and personal, I think Star Wars weapons are generally much more effective, just because of the sheer amount of damage that they produce. They have a lot of power, they're really easy to provide ammo for, I find they don't often have a lot of recoil, and they are quite versatile. However, when it comes to specialized weapons, especially things like sniper rifles, real-world weapons come ahead, with much better range and accuracy. So, which weapon is better? I guess it depends. I think if I were fighting a war, I would use real-world ballistic weapons just because you'd often be fighting at range. But I think blasters do also make sense in the Star Wars universe, especially where vehicles and droids are quite common. That, however, is just my opinion. If you have to outfit an army for an all-around war, which would you choose? The guns of the real world or the blasters of the Star Wars universe? Let me know all of that down in the comments section. Anyway guys, thanks so much for watching. As always, this has been EckhartsLadder. May the Force be with you.